monetary system. And this is one incident. The whole thing is there's another major argument going on in Washington about how much more money are we going to give to Ukraine. And unfortunately, there's a debate going on for the first time. And people are, oh, worried, they're going to close down the government. Which Daniel and I talked about yesterday. They don't really close down the government. But all the politicians play that game. Do it my way, or the government's going to close down. And you won't be able to go to the Russian environment for a week. And if you get if your job, if they send you home from your job, you never have to worry a thing. You get all your money at the end. They probably pay interest as well. But it's all a fake of what we're doing. But it's also acknowledges and makes a point about that the type of spending we see in the military industrial complex, kind of wars that we should have down here. Things that don't work very well. And you may wonder why a lot of conflict like this and I talk about the deficit. When I do that, I want to emphasize that the things that happen even the has, especially as a result of Europe, and usually back at home, where it's starting to go, inevitably, money eventually stops to respond. Now, there are other restraints, especially if you have an empire. Take over and expand the empire. We can do that, making a lot of countries. That would be a big problem. We have to be concerned about that. And the American people are still not quite privy to exactly how this happened. Because it wouldn't happen if you didn't have a Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the culprit. And one test of how bad things are people buying gold. Yes, they are buying gold. And are other countries thinking about the gold standard a lot more than the United States? Yes, they are. Which means that ultimately history shows the number of people and civilizations that get on the side of our argument that we make that gold is money and it's long lasting. It's been around for about 6,000 years and used as a value and could be used as an monetary issue. So the gold is one way that a common person can resort to trying their best to protect themselves and their family against what's coming, which is what we'll be talking about, which is coming. The debt is out of control. Well, how do you do this? Because you hear a lot of talk that you have two parties. One party said they can do better than the other, but no matter which party you have, you keep spending, and the deficits keep going up. So this is something that we have to contend with. The people can get some protection because they can personally buy on gold. When I was in high school, grade school, high school, and in college until 1971, we were not allowed to. It was illegal on gold because gold was valuable in manipulation of the welfare and working state that Roosevelt brought in. So in 1933, he made it illegal to own gold, and so the American people didn't have it. Today that's not true. We at least have the legal right to own gold, and there are a lot of people now advertising different ways that you can buy, invest in gold, and make that sincere effort to try to protect against the things that are likely to come because the world has gone through this type of problem many times before. This is the reason I work with the Birch Gold Group, because they do have their ideas and they have their promotions and they have the advice on how people can do that. If they're getting a little bit worried about the stock market, which they would have a right to, and they're thinking about something more long-lasting, and if they believe that the government is not going to stop spending with the crowd that we have in Washington, which means the Fed is going to stay busy printing money, then I think, personally, I decided that before I was allowed to own gold, but certainly it became handwriting on the wall after 1971, no link whatsoever to gold, and all of a sudden gold went from $35 an ounce up to $2,000 an ounce. That's going to go up. So if you have an interest in getting some information from Birch Gold, it's very easy. Here's your text from 989898. They will send you material. It doesn't cost anything. Transfer funds around your taxation on these transfers. So I think people should think about that for their own good. Besides, I have a personal interest because I think the more people who are protected, the better things will be, and it will be easier to go to some monetary system. People have a condition to understand how it is. Let me do is text from 989898. Because I'm not going to spend a little bit of time on it. We don't ask them to this is a chart of the interest on the debt. This is what it's doing exponentially. That's just to pay to pay the interest on the debt. That's a point of no return. Because there's nobody going to be able to pass any bill, and they're arguing and fighting about it. Now we have one thing that we talk about, we're so excited about, is more and more Republicans. Republicans at the grassroots are waking up, and there's been a time, the whole time I was in Congress, it was sacred that all Republicans support just about all the time the wasteful spending in the military industrial complex, which literally introduces wars and continue to build up debt and all this nonsense relying on the Federal Reserve. So this point right now, Chris, I think it is crucial. I'm glad you pointed this out to us because that chart showing the growth of the interest necessary to pay for the interest, and it has to be borrowed. So that's borrowed money to pay interest on the debt. So how they're going to reverse that is a big deal. My belief is it's going to end badly. There's no reason why knowledgeable people who are honest people in Washington couldn't take care of this in a much better fashion as being taken care of now. Chris.
Right, Dr. Paul, yes, we saw this week that the U.S. government's debt is now $33 trillion, up from $32 trillion just 3 months ago. So that's $1 trillion of debt in just 3 months. It took almost 200 years to get that first trillion, and now it's taking 3 months. We're going to be doing a show that takes 3 weeks to add $1 trillion, so I guess we'll see. But what we're seeing, in my view, is the end of the progressive era government. At the beginning of the 1900s, there was a major shift in the belief in the role of government within the United States. No longer was it a protector of liberty. It is now going to progressively and scientifically rule all of society, and that's what it is about. That's what people believe today that it should do. It is the grantor of rights. So instead of rights being natural from our Creator, it comes from government. And of course, people make up rights all the time. You read about it all the time. They believe they have a right to this and a right to that. Take care of my health care, my education, my kids in pre-K, Social Security, backs me up. From start to finish of your life, the government is your provider. of course, this is a grand delusion. It's a very good one, as we see with the debt. It goes beyond what the people themselves believe, and it trickles into the minds of the politicians. They believe, yeah, we can do that. We can do all of this and more. We will take care of the entire world. We have 1,000 bases covered all over the planet. We will tell every country what to do, not just rule our own people. So what we have is a mass delusion that is costing trillions even faster. This will end badly, unfortunately, unless there is a major shift in the minds of the American people, what the world government should do. It should not be that it is the everything for everyone, because it is leading us to bankrupt.
Very good. Each morning when I wake up to go to the business stations and on the computer, I'm looking for a few things because automatically what one is the gold price. Because ultimately, no matter what the government does, even when it's totally illegal, but people still know the gold is the ultimate money. It's been there for 6,000 years. So the gold price is important. The other thing I look for is the money supply. They either bring the money or whatnot. It can be assured of conditions today in order to pay the interest. We're going to increase the money supply and increase the credit. Then we also have to take into consideration, not only what the Fed does in printing the money, but also what comes out of the fractional reserve system, where the banks are allowed to loan money that they don't really have. So all these things add, pressure on the dollar. And it's something that when they do this, when all the politicians spend money, and they don't have the money, they just they pass the bill, they spend it. They're always buying votes. That's their investment. They buy votes. Everybody's a special interest. Whether it's the military industrial complex, the drug industry, or whatever, or just plain old-fashioned welfareism, and now it's corporatism. So the money is spent. That's most of the time the easy part until the country gets poorer, like they're getting now. So there's a little bit more argument and contention because people are starting to sense this can't last forever. But what happens if they send the bills to the Federal Reserve? What do? They don't have any real money. They have fake money. And they have a license to steal. They're college mirrors. How much you need? Oh, but Chris just said they have $3 trillion. So in a couple of months, it's expanding exponentially. That's no problem. They have a computer. They create the money and they pay the bill. The next step that happens on that is that once they monetize all this debt and the fractional reserve system stays maintained, it will just common sense tells you, well, they keep doing this. Wouldn't that make the dollar cheaper? Wouldn't it make it look like it's not worth as much? Exactly, it doesn't. It decrease the value of the dollar. And what happens when the dollar isn't worth as much? Well, prices go up. Oh, yeah, I guess that's easy to understand. The prices go up, and then also people then see one of the protections of all this. And you end up with saying this is the reason why gold is different, because it maintains value, and the dollar-gold ratio changes, or gold in dollars terms, goes up. So that's why it provides a haven for people who are worried about what's going on. And I think what remind people is there's a lot of arguments, a lot of shenanigans going on, a lot of politicking going on, a lot of deceitful activity now, and just the war once again, Chris, you don't always hear the truth coming out of Washington. You don't always hear the truth on their financial reports, and you don't ever hear the truth about why we have to send kids 6,000 miles away to stir up trouble, and a bunch of people dying over all this. And it's always us, just like in Ukraine. We have to pay the bills, and it's huge, $100 billion already. And that chart we showed at the beginning of the show, like, this is coming to an end because we can't even pay the interest on the debt. We have to borrow money to pay the interest. Yeah, we're increasing the debt. It's a losing proposition. So we have to realize it's the effort from the large majority of people thinking in this system that democracy allows people to get together and lobby for what they want. And they do. They get together. They get 51% to vote for more handouts, and they say democracy is great. Democracy is great. But what it only has done is able to, if the 51% can get what they want, they still have to pay for it. Well, they print up the money, and that hurts the middle class, the people who didn't get as much on the gravy train. So they do this, and it is really, really harmful to the middle class and the poor, because that's the ultimate tax that hits them. And unfortunately, the process continues, and the effort to quit spending. The only example that I can make that sort of mimics what goes on there is an addiction. And if you have withdrawal of money just pouring in to take care of that, if you didn't have money to pay the interest on the national debt, I mean, it would be pretty amazing. It would not be this smooth sailing. I mean, this pseudo smooth sailing is coming to an end, and that's what our chart is telling us.
Right, Dr. Paul. And we do live in an empire of lies, and the real epidemic is that they lie so much, and people keep believing it over and over, no matter how much they lie to them. And like I mentioned earlier, I pin this on this progressivism, which started at the beginning of the 1900s. That's not to say that the U.S. government was an angel prior to the 1900s. It was not. There was corruption, there were liars, they did all sorts of bad things. However, the mentality of the people changed into what they believed government was there for, and that's what the progressive era has given us. And they've lied this the whole time, starting even with the Fed, which was, again, progressive era, 1913. They were needed to, we can't have free markets. They need to stabilize the currency and smooth out business cycles. Of course, they did the exact opposite. The income tax, same thing, 1913. And at the beginning, it was only the richest of the rich. Nobody has to worry about this. Nobody has to, we're going to get those rich guys. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? They still say the same thing 100 years later. And of course, we all pay income tax just about. Actually, a lot of people probably won't go into that. But then there were student loans. They're going to help you become, get into college. What they did was the exact opposite. You're now loaded up with debt, and the degrees lost value. Vaccines, we all know about that. Safe and effective. The wars, Dr. Paul brought up. Iraq was just going to last a few weeks. A couple months, maybe. Not 20 years. So you see, it's all lies, even up to the Russia sanctions. They were being isolated. Everybody put Ukraine flags in their Twitter handles. Russia was not isolated. Russia was not bankrupted. The exact opposite. So it's amazing that they just keep going from one thing to the next. And the more people realize that they do not tell the truth consistently. We're talking about a century. So, learn from this entire century. They don't tell the truth. It would be reasonable not to believe them.
A lot of people would say, they're listening to us, and they said, well, we've heard stories like this for a long time. It's true. Decades ago, they talked about the road that we were on, and they were correct, because even before Bretton Woods collapsed, people knew printing money is going to change the system. And of course, there was a big change in 71, when they just removed any pretense. And things were bad in 71, but they seemed to recover because the delusion seemed to be working. People were delusional, and some people could operate, and in spite of all the debt problems we have, and we see the results today, and the chaos that we have in our streets today, and these deficits skyrocketing. But it really wasn't that bad as some people thought it would have been. But it is coming. Now, there's a financial writer that I have known about, Graham Summers, and he writes about this a lot. He made a point this week, which he's made before, which is very important, because generally people measure our debt as a percentage of GDP. So our debt, when it goes over 100, if the debt is greater than the annual GDP, that sounds like a dangerous thing. And the first time we ever did did that in a significant manner was World War II, and they've used that as an example. Well, that was very exceptional, and it was. But they recovered and went back to a more sensible program. And right now, we're back, with our with the spending being much greater than borrowing much greater than GDP. But Graham this week points out, as I said before, that he has done this before, that if you look at it as a world event, because I think it's more of a world event than ever before. Because with the richest, we have an empire, we have control of the reserve currency, the dollar. So this malinvestment, this distribution of debt is scattered around the world, never in a fair manner, but it's been around, it's involved everybody. So if you have a cataclysmic ending to the dollar, it's going to affect not just the United States. You hear runaway inflation in Venezuela. Well, yeah, we heard about it. So what happens when you do that? It's sort of held in place. But if that happened with, and if it happened for the dollar, it is going to be noticed by everybody, and that will not be easy to deal with. But when he added up all the debt in the world, it's over $300 trillion, and it's 349% of the global GDP, which when it's over 100 in the United States, that's a warning sign. Here, you take the whole world, it's at 349%. So the world, although there's many countries that will admit, yes, we're very poor and we want somebody to bail us out, or this sort of thing. But this is an indication the world is really poor. And there's a lot of investment, and if you can trust to say, well, we're doing well, the Fed is handling the crisis pretty well, and they won't befriend us. They will print the money, but we have to keep the system going. I think that's a delusion. I think this is a delusional system, and it's been that way. Matter of fact, even from the beginning of the Federal Reserve, it was delusional. Now it's getting to be recognized as one of the biggest delusions ever found in mankind.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Wallach. Shut my closing thoughts. All of this we tend to want. As bad as all this is, to be fixed. We want somebody to come in and fix it. And that's just not the way that it works. We need to individually go in the opposite direction of our entire lives. The moment we start thinking that we have to go change one, we're no different than the Bill Gateses and the Klaus Schwabs who think that they're right. Okay, they're not. They're ruining everything, but that's their mentality. It's backwards. Where we need to be individually focused on doing the opposite of what they do. Don't add to debt. Get out of it to the best of your ability. Don't call for new rights from the government. The government is not a provider of rights. Protect your natural, God-given rights to speak, to defend yourself, to worship. Those are, and that we can do individually. We don't have to change anybody else. And obviously, don't call for war. And that's hard because it's people get on a bandwagon. They don't even know what they're calling for. It's just everybody else is doing it, so they do it too. And peace, not intervention. And momentum starts from the individual. It's not that you're changing the world directly. It's that other people will notice you, and without them even telling you, they will change on their own. They'll be like, this guy's got it right. I want to do like that. And that's how change happens outside of yourself. You can't be like the Karens, the Yankee mentality, the Puritan mentality that you're going to go out into the world and remake them in your own puny little image. It's not going to happen. You're going to create a lot of destruction. So what you have to do is individually, this is very hard for all of us to do, go in the opposite direction and set a good example.
Very good, Chris. I'm going to finish my comments today by talking about what needs to be done before we can start sound economic growth again without undermining the liberties of the people in the country. Right now, the process is that we are endlessly spending and constantly undermining the liberties of the people. And the marketplace is in competition with the government because the government officials, they know this debt can't be sustained, and they know the debt has to be liquidated. Matter of fact, they're deliberately in the business of liquidating the debt, the real debt. And what they do is they, if they double the money supply, the real debt is reduced. In the rate of it's split in two. It's less because you're paying back with cheap money. If you borrow on a mortgage and you borrow $20,000, and 10 years later you give them $20,000, but it's only worth 10. That was liquidation of real debt. So that goes on, and they can.